Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. In today's episode, I'm going to tell you why the Phillies loss to the Dodgers last night in the series opener was more of the same, and yet it felt kind of different. Is that a good thing? We'll talk about it in today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for checking us out. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work, doing sports talk radio for 97.5 The Fanatic here in Philadelphia for 5 years now, 3 years credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member, and 3 years as your host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out here on Locked On Phillies to get you new notifications when episodes are posted. Free and easy to do. I would really appreciate it if you did that. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, well, you're looking at situations where the sport stops sporting like we want them to, but over this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Now, the Phillies lost again last night. It's another loss in a long stretch of them. They have the second worst record in baseball since the All-Star break. The only team worse are the White Sox, who haven't won a game in 21 chances. They haven't won since the All-Star break. They haven't won since well before the All-Star break. That's one of the worst baseball teams in the history of the sport. You have the second worst record compared to them since the All-Star break. That's pretty darn bad. So you might say, well, how is Connor going to spin this positively? Because you know I'm a positive person. And first, I'm going to start with acknowledging the stuff that did not go well for the Phillies last night. Now, you lose the series opener to the Dodgers, a 5-3 loss that saw 4 of the runs surrendered by Aaron Nola. And just overall, losing series openers, you're putting yourself in a really, really tough spot to find a way to win any series by doing that. That's why the Phillies were so good at consistently winning series. They were winning game one and then looking at it as hey, take one of the next two. You have room for a misstep and you're good. Now, if you want to win this series against the Dodgers, well, you need to count on Christopher Sanchez being really good tonight. We'll preview that later in the episode. And Tyler Phillips finding a way to outduel Gavin Stone tomorrow, which is a tough task for veteran pitchers, much less a guy who's made, 4 career starts at the major league level. So there's work to be done, and the Phillies are behind the 8 ball again. And more likely than not, they're going to lose this series to the Dodgers. It would be tough for them to win the next 2 games, especially seeing Shohei Ohtani heat up a little bit last night. And he owes the Phillies 1 or 2 or a bunch for the way they've been able to shut him down in his career. He hasn't had success against this team. Now it looks like he's going to. So not good you're behind the 8 ball. Not expecting this team to win this series now. Not that I was to begin with. I was telling you I'd be comfortable with 1 out of 3, just like baby steps to get your way back into a situation where you could be more competitive. And then you really got to kick it into gear when you play a team like the Diamondbacks coming up later this weekend. I'll be out in attendance for a couple of those games. But when I looked at last night's game, it's hard not to point the finger first in Aaron Nola's direction. The offense created opportunities. Now, they didn't create as many as you would expect them to based on the talent level, but when you look at who was on the mound, Tyler Glasnow's nasty. He's a strikeout machine. He showed that off last night. He was really darn good. And Nola was pretty solid as well, but he just had one of those weird Aaron Nola innings, right? He goes out there, first 2 innings, great, no problems, no issues whatsoever. The Phillies get a lead in the second. They're up 2-0. And then in the bottom of the third, the Dodgers hang 4 on Aaron Nola, and he was getting the ball hit hard left and right. There were multiple that were over 110 miles an hour off the bat. There were balls that were getting smoked off of Aaron Nola in that inning. Now, the final stat line doesn't sound awful. 6 innings, 8 hits, 4 earned, 4 strikeouts, 1 home run allowed. It's not great, but it's not, oh, man, he didn't give you a chance to win. The Phillies had a chance to win this game. Just getting all of those all at once and then having 5 other innings where you just pretty darn dominant it's honestly peak Aaron Nola, right? I don't know what this guy is. I don't, and I haven't for a long time, and I don't know if Phillies fans have. If you think he's a bad pitcher, you're wrong. If you think he's a great pitcher, you're probably also wrong. I don't know. The truth lies somewhere in between, or it's a flip of a coin anytime he steps on the mound. One day he could be Cy Young, and one day he could be, I don't know, the worst pitcher in baseball? No, and not that bad, but still, like he could be. Who do I want to take a ricochet shot at? Tommy Hunter. Let's go with that. He was kind of annoying when he was here. Bottom line is, Aaron Nola is not consistent. He could be really, really good. He could be really, really bad, and he has those blow-up innings, and that's just kind of what we've seen from him. Now, he will give you starts where he's awesome, and it's worth the risk, but right now stuff isn't going the Phillies' way, and it happened again last night with that inning in the third from Aaron Nola, but he was good the rest of the way, so it's just like, how do you even evaluate it? I don't think there's a major issue with Aaron Nola at all. I think he is what he is. They paid for the good. They'll live with the bad. That was the Phillies' thought process when they signed him long-term. We'll survive with that. He's good enough you can win with him, and he's been great in the postseason the past couple of years. We're going to stick with that as our mentality with Aaron Nola. I understand the drawbacks, but that brings me to something else I'm going to get into. It felt like a typical Aaron Nola type of performance, right? That head-scratching inning, pretty good stuff. No idea how that one happens, and you end up – it costs you a little bit. Also, when you look at the lineup, let's just look at how the guys – now, Trey Turner 0 for 4. He's still got to work out of some stuff. He's hitting 308 on the year, but he hasn't had like one of those hot stretches in a while that we saw from him at the like in mid-June. We just haven't seen it, or I guess late June, early July. We have not seen it at all in the month of, well, August is early, but late July or early August. He was rough last night. Kyle Schwarber 1 for 3. Not bad. You'll take that. Also put a walk on there. 2 strikeouts, but I'm not crazy about the strikeout numbers in this game because of Glass now being on the mound. Bryce Harper 1 for 4. Good to see him with an opposite way double. Alec Boehm 1 for 4 in RBI. Good to see that from him. Brandon Marsh struck out 3 times. Not great, but he's been hitting really well. Nick Castellanos has low-key been the Phillies' most consistent hitter this year. 2 for 4, or not this year. Sorry. This past month, if you look at like the last 30 days, he has not been their most consistent hitter all year. Do not kill me in the comments for that. I know there's someone who's going to click off the video the second I say that. And Austin Hayes was 2 for 4 last night as well. It's good to see. Bryce Stott, another hit. Like, that felt like a normal performance from the Philadelphia Phillies offense against a pitcher like Tyler Glasnow. That's why going into this series, I was so cautious about my expectations, because the guys you're facing for the Dodgers, I mean, whether it's the lineup, the rotation, the bullpen, they have a really darn good baseball team. I'm not breaking any news with that. The Phillies have been scuffling. I didn't expect them to just like take a game from the Mariners and all of a sudden, oh, that's right, we're going to beat the brakes off the Dodgers in all 3 games like we did early. Like, no, they're not running that well. So I'm not expecting them to do anything crazy in this series. But last night was this game you could have had. It's just not one you did have. And that brings me to my total point, the positivity spin, right? Have I said enough things about the problems with this team and what the issues are? Like, I think so. But when I got done watching that game, I guess early this morning, I was going to say late last night, but early this morning, because it was after midnight that it finished. I got a feeling that was just a normal Phillies game. Like, if you had taken, it's not good that they lost. I'm never going to say like, well, it's fine. It doesn't matter that they lost like that. Like, I want to win baseball games, and the Phillies need to make up some ground to get back to close to where they were at before, where they were in a comfortable breathing spot in the standings. But if you had taken that game, right, and put it in the middle of that Dodgers series at Citizens Bank Park where the Philadelphia Phillies swept the Dodgers, and you would just superimpose those games, swapped one out for the other. I guess that's not the same term, but you wouldn't have batted an eye. You wouldn't have thought anything different. It wouldn't have been, man, what just happened in that game? Man, this team stunk today. It would just be like that's the Dodgers. Phillies showed some flashes. Today wasn't their day. And that's a really good thing, because over the past 3 weeks to a month, we've been looking at a lot of games from the Philadelphia Phillies where it did not feel like you were watching the same team. That felt more like Phillies baseball. And I know you might hear this and say he's grasping at straws, moral victories and all of that. And some people don't want to hear it. But I think you need to walk before you can run coming out of a slump like this. And right now, well, the Phillies are starting to walk in the right direction, in my opinion. I felt that they gave that a good chance last night. They played solid baseball. They got beat by a better team. I don't think they did anything crazy wrong. I think Aaron Nola was good outside of that 3rd inning. I think the bullpen was solid. The only run the bullpen gave up was a home run to Shohei Ohtani from Tanner Banks, and Tanner Banks looked all right in his performance last night. Like, I don't know. I'm not mad at that game, and I've been mad at a lot of baseball games recently. So something to maybe not hang your hat on, but something to look at and say, okay, positive takeaways. Go out and get one tonight. Christopher Sanchez on the mound facing Clayton Kershaw, who's struggled. You're going to have an opportunity in tonight's game. If you win tonight, well, then, hey, you got a chance to win a series. And if you don't, well, at least you can say you gave them a good run. And that's more than the Phillies can say in the past, 6 series. If they lose tonight, they will have lost 7 straight series. And that'll be pretty darn bad. So we'll evaluate that game coming up in our final segment. But coming up next, we got some good news yesterday on Taijuan Walker and, more importantly, Ranger Suarez when it comes to those 2 pitchers and their rehab opportunities. We'll talk about coming up what we heard, when we could expect them back, and what that could mean for this team, especially where they're at right now, as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. First, though, let's talk about our friends over at Supply House. You know supplyhouse.com. They're amazing. It's the number one place that you go when you want to make purchases for if you're working in the skilled trades. You've heard it. Like, I know if you're watching on YouTube, you might see this camo hat and think, oh, is he a skilled trade worker? No, I'm not. I'm just some idiot that talks about the Phillies. But there are people out there do very important jobs. And supplyhouse.com is the place to go to get the equipment to do that. They're the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. You can shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. You need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business, and you can talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining supplyhouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. You can join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at supplyhouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com. So we got a little update on Ranger Suarez and Taijuan Walker, and it's some good news, some very, very good news considering where the Philadelphia Phillies are at right now. So both of these guys have been kind of banged up on the injured list. Taijuan Walker's had a whole host of things. He had like the hot spot blister, and then he had other stuff go wrong. We haven't seen him in a minute. Ranger Suarez has been dealing with the back issue and a whole bunch of stuff going on. On top of that, we haven't seen him for a week or so, a couple weeks. And the Phillies really need to bolster their rotation. Right now, they're going like bullpen game. Colby Allard starts. They're starting Tyler Phillips, who I know he threw a complete game shutout. He also has looked kind of rough in his most recent start, and you expect a guy that's just come up to the major league level to have those growing pains. You don't expect that from guys like Ranger Suarez and Taijuan Walker, even though I know there's someone who's going to hear this and say, I'd rather have Tyler Phillips in the rotation than Taijuan Walker. I don't know that I can say that. And I'll tell you why. And I know it's en vogue right now to make fun of Taijuan Walker and say how terrible of a pitcher he is. The guy won 15 games for this team last year. And I'm not saying he's a 15-game winning caliber pitcher. But what I am saying is you take anybody out of AAA, they're not winning 15 games over the course of a season. They're not going to be able to keep you in as many ball games. They're not going to be as consistently professional as what you see Taijuan Walker do, even though he's not great. The other thing you got to remember, too, is Taijuan Walker, when he was struggling earlier on in the season, we were comparing him to guys having historic starts. Wheeler, Suarez, Sanchez, and Nola were all amazing at that point, and it made Taijuan Walker look worse by comparison. I'm not saying Taijuan Walker is the difference between the Phillies pulling out of this winning or this losing streak or not, but what I am saying is getting back to a guy that has been a high-caliber major league starter before, you paid a lot of money, and you at least trust to be a part of the rotation to some extent, is better than handpicking guys from the minor leagues to have to fill in as last-ditch efforts, right? I think we should be able to agree on that. I know not everyone will, but it's not so much a Taijuan Walker is good thing. It's the Phillies have a couple pitchers that probably shouldn't be at the major league level in rotation, or probably shouldn't be consistently at the major league level in rotation, and Taijuan Walker can now remedy that by coming back. The expectation, he threw his first rehab start, he felt fine. He could be back as early as this weekend in the series against the Diamondbacks, 4 games, or he could be back when the Phillies come back from the West Coast road trip. Depends how the Phillies want to handle it and how quick they want to rush him back, but he seems pretty close. Sometime in the next 7 days, I'd expect Taijuan Walker to be back with the Philadelphia Phillies. Rangers a little bit further behind. There's no aiming point for when he could return, but he threw a 25 pitch estimated bullpen yesterday and felt really good. Everything felt good, no setbacks. And then what you do is you work it up. Either he's going to go down and do a rehab start, or he's going to just continue to throw bullpens. And when he gets to a point where they feel like he's stretched out enough, he'll throw simulated games, and then you'll get him back in the rotation. And that will be the bigger jump, right? I'm going to tell you that Taijuan Walker is an upgrade over Colby Allard, but I'm not going to tell you him coming back is the same thing as Ranger Suarez coming back. Getting Ranger back in this rotation gives you a chance to build momentum, because right now, when you look at it, it's like, man, okay, Wheeler throws well, then you got to hope Nola goes well. And even if you get those two guys good, then you're going to have Tyler Phillips or Colby Allard coming up next, or Christopher Sanchez is split by those two guys. It's just pause. You're looking at a situation where you don't have a chance to build momentum because there's too many holes in the rotation. That's why the Phils were so good. The next guy was as good as the guy who just threw. That's not happening right now. And you can get back to that with Taijuan Walker and Ranger Suarez getting back in the rotation and getting your starting five like it's basketball. I always say that. The 5 guys that you had in the starting rotation when you had everybody healthy, that's what they want to get back to. And that's something that could be reality here in the next week and a half, 2 weeks, depending on how quick Ranger gets back. Again, Taijuan closer to returning than that. Now, the Ranger Suarez thing is interesting because I'm kind of nervous for him to come back. And let me tell you why. Not so much that he's going to be re-injured, but that if he comes back and he took this time for the injury and they deem him healthy and he's worked out all of his issues with his back and he gets back out there and it's just kind of blah again, he's not the guy. He doesn't have to be Cy Young caliber Ranger Suarez. But if he's not pretty darn good, top of the rotation type of arm, Ranger Suarez, then we're going to be in a situation where you have less faith in him come postseason. Then you got to worry about who your guys are that you're throwing in a 3-game series. If you get in that spot, which you hope they don't, but this slide right now, who knows? Or if you get in that short 5-game series, even in the NLDS, which I imagine they will be in, that will be their first action of the postseason if things go to plan. Still, you're looking at probably 3 guys to throw with the days off. You got to make a determination on who those 3 guys are going to be. And if Ranger doesn't look like himself after the injury and then deemed healthy again, that will be even bigger concern. It won't be he's hurt. It will be he lost it. And I do not want to live in that world where we have to confront that fear. So I'm hoping he's good, but that does bring the nerves in a little bit. Injuries in baseball for pitchers are kind of you don't use them as an excuse, but an organization certainly can. We talked about them putting Taijuan Walker on the injured list with the hot spot on his finger as kind of a fake injured list stint to try and give him time, and then turned into more than what it was with its other issues that he's dealing with as well. I hope that this is a situation where both these guys come back. They look more like themselves. Taijuan Walker is eating up innings. Ranger Suarez is being dominant in them. And as the Philadelphia Phillies get healthier in the rotation, it makes the bullpen a little bit stronger because you could say, if Tyler Phillips is out of the rotation, do we put him in the bullpen? If Colby Allard is out of the rotation, we like what we've seen from him, do we put him there? You can start to focus on the finer tuning of stuff, and ideally that leads into a stronger baseball club, which leads into more consistent performance, which leads into the Phillies getting back to the team that they were when they were beating the brakes off of everybody in baseball. I don't know. Healthier is better. I got in an argument this morning on the radio, Andrew Salchunas, the host of Kincaid and Salchunas, and he was saying how I was I roll my eyes at Taijuan Walker being close to returning. You can't, dude. He's better than at least one guy you have in the rotation right now in Colby Allard, if not 2, depending on what Tyler Phillips does consistently. And I like Tyler Phillips. It's not a knock on him. It's just that resumes are not even comparable between him and Taijuan Walker at this point in those 2 players' career. It may only make you marginally better to have Taijuan Walker back. But you have to take marginal improvements right now. Every little bit matters when you're playing as poorly as the Philadelphia Phillies have played recently. So good injury news for the Philadelphia Phillies as those guys are closer to coming back. We'll keep an eye on it. I'll keep you updated as I hear more about when the actual timeframes are. Maybe by tomorrow we'll have a better view on Taijuan Walker, or hopefully before I take off for Arizona on Thursday. But yes, things to keep an eye on in a good way. Coming up, we're going to preview a game to keep an eye on in a way tonight, as the Phillies are facing the Dodgers in Game 2 and Christopher Sanchez and Clayton Kershaw. It sounds like a mismatch, but not in the way that you'd expect based on history. And maybe the Phillies can take advantage of that. We'll talk about it coming up next. Let's talk about FanDuel first, though, because sports are awesome. And I love them even when we're at a time of the year where sports are not on center stage. Now, I know it's weird because you got the Olympics this year, and that's totally different. It does add another element for you. But normally when basketball isn't going on and hockey isn't going on and football hasn't started their regular season yet, the sports aren't sportsing like you want them to. But FanDuel lets us keep the sports going whenever we want. All I got to do with FanDuel, right, is open up the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel's hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So go on and head on over to FanDuel.com. Start making the most out of your summer with America's #1 sportsbook. All right, let's preview Game 2 tonight against the Dodgers. Before we do that, I do want to thank you again for making Locked On Phillies your first listen today. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On MLB podcast. When you get done listening to this episode, host Paul Sullivan, also known as Sully, he's here daily, I should say, to provide national expertise with his trademark humor to help you get ready for the MLB playoffs here in the dog days of summer. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day on Locked On MLB, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So tonight, again, a pitching matchup that sounds like a mismatch, but it probably is in the other direction. When you hear Clayton Kershaw and you hear Christopher Sanchez facing off against each other, you hear Lock Hall of Famer Clayton Kershaw, amazing resume, all of these awesome stats and milestone marks, and has been in LA forever, and he's a legend there. And this isn't the postseason, so no worry about October Kershaw for Dodgers fans. And you say Christopher Sanchez, didn't he just kind of burst on the scene like last year? And I know he's having a breakout year this year, but come on, Kershaw, Sanchez, that's not a fair fight. That would be the name value. But in actuality, you've got a major pitching advantage in tonight's game. Sanchez has been really good this year. His 7-7 record wouldn't fully indicate it, but the 3.36 ERA, the 1.28 WHIP shows that he's having a stellar season over 120 2/3 innings pitched. He's only struck out 98 guys. He's not a strikeout guy, but the soft contact he's producing, I mean, it's awesome. And the fact he's only given up 4 home runs in 120 2/3 innings speaks to that fact. Last night, the Dodgers got Nola by roping doubles into the corners, and Teoscar Hernandez hit a line drive down the line that got out. Christopher Sanchez does not give up hard contact. Where he struggles is when he walks guys, and he has 31 walks on the year, so controlling that's going to be important. But listen to Kershaw's numbers, who missed a lot of this year so far due to injury. He's only got 7 2/3 innings pitched so far this season, and it hasn't gone well for him. He's got 6 Ks, so that's good that he still got it, but he's already given up a home run. He's walked 3. He's got a 5.87 ERA and a 1.96 WHIP. He's allowing almost 2 base runners an inning, which, if you saw last night, can be a major problem against good teams like the Phillies and the Dodgers. I look at this and I say, Kershaw, I know lefty. I know he's got the big curveball. I know he's got a lot of experience matching up against another lefty and Christopher Sanchez, a distinct advantage to the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, Kershaw has always been tough against lefties. He's been tough against everybody historically, even though he is on the back end of his career. People have used the washed word for him at 36 years of age. I don't know that that's the case because he's coming off of this injury and you got to work your way back, but he's certainly not pitching at his best right now. Take advantage. It's going to be the righties that are going to have to do it. Nick Castellanos has been playing really, really well lately. I'd like to look at him for a big night tonight. I'd like to look at Alec Boehm for a big night as well because, I don't know, he's had some double stretches where he's looked like the player he was when he earned all-star starter nods in the first half, but he hasn't fully broken out again yet. And the one other guy too, right? Like when looking at righties in the lineup, of course, I'm going to expect something from Trey Turner tonight. Dodger Stadium, a place that he used to play before he came to Philadelphia. Does he have it in him to go out there and maybe have one of those like 2-homer games where he takes over and makes you remember why the Phillies paid him all this money? Those are the 3 guys: Casty, Bomer, Trey Turner. If they can get the job done tonight, anything you get from Harper, Schwarber, Stott, like bonus. And they may not play Stott. It could be an Edmundo Sosa night. Actually, I'd be kind of surprised if it wouldn't be Edmundo Sosa night, simply because of the lefty matchup with Kershaw. But that's the thing offensively. That's what you need to create. The other thing you need to think about is, well, how do we stay away from Shohei Ohtani? Guess what? Christopher Sanchez did the best job of any Phillies starter in that series against the Yankees of staying away from Aaron Judge. And that's lefty-righty. Now, when you look at it, a lefty-lefty matchup against Shohei Ohtani, I'd say, oh, okay. Well, now you've got an opportunity to have a better matchup against another superstar. Show me that you know how to shut him down, or at least work around him. You got Freddie Freeman, another lefty. So this plays a little bit better for Christopher Sanchez to have better matchups with their stars than you saw with Aaron Nola, righty-lefty last night. Maybe that's a huge benefit. Maybe it's a slight benefit. Whatever the case, those are the guys that you got to avoid, right? Mookie Betts not back in the lineup yet, but Freddie Freeman made his return. By the way, while we're talking about Freddie Freeman, an emotional return last night. His son, Max, dealing with health issues. It seems like he's going to be okay, but he had missed time from the team. He got an amazing ovation last night. It was clearly very emotional, taking a step outside of the realm of like, we're trying to beat your team. Beautiful moment. Great work by the Dodgers fans, Phillies fans that were in attendance that were cheering as well. Well done by everyone in attendance. And shout out to Freddie Freeman and his family. Everybody's wishing the best. Couldn't be a nicer guy. Couldn't have a nicer family. And pulling for his son, Max. But not pulling for Freddie Freeman to get hits tonight. I'm not. That's where my charity ends. And the Phillies need to take advantage of the top of the Dodgers lineup if they're going to win tonight's game and give themselves a chance to win this series. If you don't win tonight's game, it's going to be a really uphill battle tomorrow against Gavin Stone with Tyler Phillips on the mound. If you think Tyler Phillips had trouble against the Mariners, you're going to be in for a situation where he could have trouble against the Dodgers just as easy, well, much easier. The Dodgers are, as a team, I just want to let you know this, they're hitting 252. Like the Mariners were hitting like 210 or something around there. Like this is a tough matchup for a young pitcher. That's why tonight's got to be the game you got to go get. This is the most important game of this 3-game series against the Dodgers. And then if you win it, how gravy would it be to go out and be able to win a series? If you don't, okay, well, at least you took that middle game and you didn't get swept. But you don't want to go into a sweep opportunity with Tyler Phillips on the mound tomorrow. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm bashing the kid. I've been nothing but complimentary to Tyler Phillips since he's come up with the Phillies, and I've had no reason not to be. And I'm not even that worried about like that last start he made where he got absolutely shelled in Seattle. It's just I don't have as much confidence in him as I have in the pitchers that I've seen up all year or for years. I think that's a fair thing, and it's not anything like saying, oh, this guy stinks, he can't win. Sure, could he go out and throw another gem, and would that be miraculous and fun to see? Absolutely, but I'm not going to count on it because the things that I count on are try to be more realistic about. But I don't know, man. I look at the numbers and I say the Phillies, even on the money line, like minus 110 now, even on the open on the money line, but them and the Dodgers both minus 110. So you have the same odds no matter who you bet. The ESPN Analytics matchup predictor favors the Dodgers 54.8%. But I think that's just starting to account for the Phillies slide that they've been on. I think the Phillies win tonight. I really do. I feel good about this game. I feel good about this pitching matchup. I feel good about everything about the way that the Philadelphia Phillies have been approaching baseball over the past 2 games. I just want to go ahead and see it start to yield results. And tonight's the night for that. Hopefully I'm right. We'll see. I've been right before. I've also been wrong before. Whatever the case, we're going to talk more about it on tomorrow's episode. That's all for today's episode, though. So thank you so much once again for checking us out. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And again, please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out. You can just go to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. It gets you notification when new episodes are posted. It's free and easy. That's the number one way to say thank you for the content if you do enjoy it. So please do all that. In the meantime, get your rest, drink your coffee, another late night one, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. The Phils will take on the Dodgers. Let's hope we're talking about a win tomorrow because I'm getting really tired of treating the Phillies like they're the worst team in baseball. Well, the worst team in Major League Baseball, because the White Sox probably can't even be considered a Major League team at this point, rather than the way we were treating them as the best team in baseball to start the season. All right, that's it for today's episode. Folks, I'll talk to you tomorrow.